I'm Ian.
And I'm Darren.
And welcome to the Average Bikers in a Cave, a show where a group of bikers chat and share opinions about all things motorbike, from news, reviews, interviews and the big questions. If you like what you hear, then be sure to subscribe, tell your friends and leave us a review.
On episode 17, today's show, this is not our usual nonsense. This is something a little bit special. This is just the big question week. Big question is, who is Teapotone? This week's episode is sponsored by Afterground, an exceptional drone, wedding, portraiture and events photography and videography company that specialises in capturing video and images on the ground and in the air in a style that is modern yet timeless, interesting and vibrant, with a focus on exhilarating moments and pure fun. Using their experience, skills and knowledge, they will work with you to ensure your videos and photos are exactly the way you want them. For more information or to chat to the team, head over to www.afterground.com or check out their Facebook page. Check-in time. I'm going to go first this week.
Okay, you go first this week.
It's been busy because we've been off for about a month.
About
right?
a month. And
I've
got lots of news.
Not for any other reason other than we've had a few. We've been in. I'm going to take credit. I've been in discussions with some of our friends in the biking world, specifically at West Coast Harley, just about kind of doing some stuff with those guys this year and some of our other friends in the biking community. And there'll be more on that coming up. But to me, it felt like quite a productive last few weeks because we've got quite a bit done in terms of kind of moving forward and getting stuff out a bit more frequently and actually branching out and doing some stuff that's a bit different. But again, we'll keep you posted on that. We're going to get a bit more freaking. We've just been kind of lining our ducks up in a row. I hate that phrase, but I'm going to use it. We've been kind of lining our ducks up in a row.
Don't it makes you sound quackers.
And that's first rim shot. This just threw me off. The rim shot threw me off. Always does. We've started looking at additional camera gear and recording the gear.
Especially for the bike.
Specifically for the bike, which is, that's taking quite a bit of research and then double research because I'm one of these people that watch it and Google it and then watch review and then I hear that many mixed reviews. I go, I don't know if I want this or not.
And then you tell me about it and I buy it.
And then I told you about it and you went away and bought it.
I go, sorry, I've got a voucher.
But then now that you brought it and I think I'm going, that's really quite good. I quite like that. But you look back and then go, some of those reviews were like years ago, like a good year ago. They probably fixed it with firmware upgrades and all that kind of stuff. All of that is kind of what's coming up. And again, as stuff starts to unfold, we will tell you a bit more about it. One of the things that we have got coming up is on the 11th, 12th, 13th of March, the Scottish Bike Show's back. Yay!
Go hit your button. That's it.
And we're going to go up for one day. I'm not quite sure. What day? Sunday, probably?
Probably, yeah. Whatever suits their schedules. Schedules or schedules, it just depends what show you went to.
I was going to say what stool you went to, but that was the different. So we'll go up there, we'll get some footage and stuff like that and chat about it, and we might be able to chat about it while we're there. Maybe chat to some people while we're there as well.
We may just have some of that technology that we can maybe just do that.
Because I was up a couple of years ago, and the police biker guys are there, the IM guys are there, there's custom guys there, there's a whole load of stuff there, so it's really quite interesting. It's not the size of Motorcycle Live in Birmingham or the London show or whatever, but we'll go up and have a look and get a nosy, and then we can report back to you guys just what's what. The other thing that I have coming up, which isn't 100% yet, but is like 99.999%, is at the end of March, I am going to Wales on an off-road day for Pan America.
Oh, aye.
I know I can. That's Newcastle.
Dave Thompson will be
We're
listening
going to the valleys.
Dave Thompson will be listening going, this is,
I know.
if anything, they'll be going, it's kind of mildly racist.
I know. Which, see, if I'd been going to date on a Kawasaki,
Kawasaki,
it would have made more
that would be
sense,
fine.
right? But I'm not. I'm
Well,
going.
you're going up and on into the valleys.
Into the valleys.
Into the valleys.
So yes, so Harley have opened a new adventure centre. Adventure centre.
Adventure Centre. What do you think you're Trump trying to say? China!
It's because I've had a beer before we started. They've opened a new biking adventure centre,
Yeah.
specifically for the Pan America, with a Dakar legend, right? And his name is completely gone, so that just shows you how much of a legend it is. Mike something. I'll remember it later. I'm just buzzing at the fact that you get to go, you get to learn skills from this guy who's got the most miles and most hours on a Dakar rally or in Dakar rally kind of history. So, and he already had an adventure centre. They've teamed up with Harley Davidson, and I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones that's getting to go now. Yes, albeit that's because like I really want a Pan America, and that's probably going to be my next bike. I've made no. I've made no secret about that.
Sooner than
I've made
than you think.
yeah. And just to clarify, it may be sooner than I think, is because I am fed up with the tracker on my BM draining my battery.
Absolutely.
That was me had to push it a quarter mile home today with a full tank of petrol because again it drained the battery. So yes, but that's a whole other story for a whole other time. But we will keep you posted as we go. March is definitely much busier from us, and obviously, you mean this episode is the kind of start of that, as you will see when we get in. So it's all fun and all exciting stuff. Cool. Ian, what have you been up to?
Well, Darren, I've had a smashing time. It's been literally a smashing time. So, you'll probably know from listening to some of the podcasts previously that that I was a bit of a fan of the new Sportster S.
Enamoured.
I was enamoured, yes. I was quite taken by the wee
Not
beast.
not armoured, but enamoured.
I wish I was armoured, I'll tell you this. So I popped into Harley's a few weeks ago, January. Popped into the end of January, and I went and spoke up to the wonderful man that is Scott and Harley, Scott Henry, and I said, yeah, big shout out. And I decided to go for it. And I bought myself a Sportster S in white. So it was the 2021 colours, the white pearlescent white thing or whatever it is. It's got a fancy name, can't remember what it is. I was like super excited, but of course weather was really, really rubbish. So, yes. But luckily when I went in there, Scott sorted it all out and managed to get the bike home that day. So I literally went in.
I was quite impressed with that actually.
Went in, bought the bike and got it home that day because the one that I bought. They did a fantastic deal on it. Thank you very much, West Coast, for what you did. It was pre-registered. They'd got it pre-registered at the end of the year, just for whatever admin reasons that places like that do that kind of thing. So it was there. It was sitting. It was pre-registered. It, everything ready for me to go. They just had to tax it and do all that. Just give it a wee run through the workshop to make sure everything was hunky dory. And I picked it up that afternoon. Took it home. Loved it. Loved riding it home. Got it in the house, put it into the shed and thought, oh God, my shed's not big enough. But actually it was just big enough, you know what I mean? Heart attack stuff. I was like, oh no, it's okay, it's just made it right. But it's even though it doesn't feel heavy when you're riding it, it is when you're trying to push up a ramp into a shed, I'll just tell you that now.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Anyway. So that was fine, and then the weather was rubbish for a couple of days, and then the weather kind of dried off, and I thought, I'm just going to just take it out for maybe wee 10, 20 miles, get some grip on the tyres. And
you phoned me and went, listen,
I'm going
to take the bike out.
Right, well, bring it over, let you see it.
And I went, I'm in for the next couple of hours. Right. When you come, can't wait to see it.
Took the bike out, was doing everything right, had it in rain mode, right? So I was like, there's no grip in these tyres, I've it in rain mode, everything's fine. And with 3 miles from my house, went round a roundabout very slowly. But there was a patch of diesel, and of course it's quite a torquey wee engine, and it just slipped away from me and slid on its side across to the side of the roundabout. I landed on my shoulder, took a wee tumble, shall I say? But thankfully for that, because I know at this point I'm just going, are you talking from the hospital? Ian? No, I got up and I was fine, absolutely fine. I hadn't even broken my jeans or anything like that.
Yes, caveat at this point, we will not be doing broadcasts from the hospital.
No. Absolutely, ever. So we a slight crack on my helmet visor. That was it. That was all that was wrong. But unfortunately, it's a heavy bike and it slid along for a bit on its side, so it was unrideable. When I picked it up, the back brake had basically the cylinder had removed itself from the rest of the body of the bike, and some various wee bumps and scratches. So I had a bike for 4 days.
I feel like we should be playing that. Would you call it music again?
But we're not allowed to. So but maybe if we sing it and the algorithm doesn't pick it up, we'll be fine.
Aye.
So I had a smashing time, mate. Bought a new bike and destroyed
smashing
it.
Time. Have you the smashing time of you?
Smashing. Bought a new bike and destroyed it, and then whilst all that's happening, the bike's away getting fixed, and because it's a new bike, lots of parts are on back order. So today is the 24th, is it?
25th. Yep.
25th today.
Something like that.
Today's the 25th, and I still don't have the bike back. I mean, it's all okayed with the insurance. Harley have got it. They've ordered all the parts, but because it's a new bike, there's certain parts that just aren't quite available yet. So, which is a bit frustrating. So I do not. Oh, well, it's not really, because to be fair, the weather's been horrendous anyway. But so I don't know when I'm going to get the bike back, and that's nobody's fault other than just availability of parts. The guys in Harley have been absolutely amazing, keeping me up to date with it, and so thank you very much, especially Brian. Big shout out to Brian, Service Department, for just kind of looking after me and looking after the bike.
Yeah. You got a
yay! There we go. But just to kind of really annoy me about that, whilst that happens, John's Triumph Bobber Gold Line has arrived.
Which, if you'd have dropped that,
I'd
have been heartbroken.
I'd have been heartbroken, absolutely. But it turns out it's incredibly difficult to get insurance for a bike that you don't own or are the registered keeper for.
It's
unbelievable.
Mental. Absolutely mental.
So it's basically I'm not taking.
Basically, John, hurry up and get that dash done.
Hurry up and get your dash done, John. That's exactly. It's locked away. It's SORN insurance and everything for it, but we cannot take it out on the road. I've just got it stuck in a trickle charger, just so the battery doesn't die on it, and
But like my BM then.
Exactly, a bit like your BM. So that's been my check-in. It's been great. Yeah, new bike for 4 days and only 4 days and about 20 miles. That's about it, to be honest. But the 20 miles I did were great fun right up to the last maybe 20 feet.
20 feet.
Up to the last 20 feet. It's a beautiful bike.
If nothing else, listeners, at least you know what I mean. When you drop it, you drop it.
Yeah.
It's no, you know what I mean.
And as you'll probably, as a wise man will has said before, and we'll probably hear it again. It's not if you drop your bike, it's just when you drop a bike. It's going to happen to you. It's going to happen. If you're on bikes,
everybody's done it.
Everybody's done it. So,
and if you haven't done it, you're not trying hard enough.
But what is interesting, I think probably, for anyone who this happens to, luckily I was going really slow. The bike didn't go very far. I wasn't hurt, at all. Really, just thumped my shoulder a wee bit, and that's just, I could have done that tripping up the stairs. Do you know what I mean? That's literally the impact.
Aye.
I've overthought that moment so many times now. So many times. Was it me? Was it? I mean, there was I went back and looked in the round bit, and there was a massive patch of diesel. Right, it was just shocking. Right, and obviously diesel, brand new tyres. Right, it just. On a bend, it was going to happen, right?
Aye.
And I blamed Darren because I was going to see him. So
I genuinely felt guilty.
You did feel guilty.
I genuinely felt guilty.
I know.
I'm like, did I cause this?
I should have taken that along the bloody motorway. I shouldn't have gone the wee country roads on a slightly wet stuff. That's my fault completely. But I can understand why it freaks people out, especially if something, I haven't been able to get back on a motorbike since then. Not because I don't want to, just because the weather and road conditions and everything. Yeah. And the longer that I'm unable to get on a bike because of weather or road conditions or whatever, the more apprehensive I do feel creeping into your head. It just ebbs away your head until I get on that bike.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And I think to me it's like one of those things where if something bad happens to you, the as soon as you can, get back on that bike or get back in that car if it's, you know what I mean, or if you fall off a horse, get back on the horse, you know, whatever it is that's giving you a wee fright or giving you a wee bit of insecurity, you know, get back on it, because it can, if you let it can really pick away
at what
you're doing.
It's the Top Gun analogy. Getting back in the air.
Getting back
exactly.
yeah.
Not literally in the air in your case. You know? But you're absolutely right.
And then you'll get that beautiful moment at the end of Hot Shots when he throws away his father's eyes. It's gone. It's out your head.
I hope I never get to that stage where I'm throwing somebody's eyes away.
I love that bit when he said, they always said you've got your father's eyes.
What an absolutely horrific check-in that would be.
I know, absolutely.
What did you do this week? I threw away my father's eyes. Yeah. So, yes. Well, there you go. Yeah, there we go. I mean, nothing happens for ages and then all of a sudden it all happens at once. Exactly. So there you go. Folks. That is check-in. Well, I might as well play. I'm going to play this and be really embarrassing.
The big question,
which is just horrific. The big question this week is, who is Teapotone? As we have mentioned on the show before, we follow a number of YouTubers, and one of our absolute favourites has kindly agreed to come on the show and have a chat with us. This man's brew time chats are one of the reasons that we decided to actually start our show of our own.
Yep.
So if you're looking for someone to blame, it's his fault. Ladies and gents, I am genuinely super excited, and we've been chatting before we started recording, and I'm still a little bit starstruck, but again, welcome to our humble little show. YouTube sensation, motorbike influencer, globe-trotting legend, Teapotone.
Cheers, gents.
Bruce, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. Cheers, lads. I thought we'd already started. Sorry, I didn't realise we were just having a wee chat.
No, that was just shooting the breeze. That was.
To be fair, I was sitting there going, we should be recording this. There's some good stuff happening here. There's some really good stuff happening. Come on.
If the rest of this is dull, then I would really. But I'll not be disappointed because
it won't be dull.
It won't be dull.
So. But there we go.
I'll let you start.
So we'll start firing some questions if that's all right with yourself, and we'll just see where we end up. So whenever we've got people on, a couple of times with a few people on, we've got a kind of standard 4 questions that we start with, just to kind of warm the listeners up, you know, to what it is. Because
why are you doing that?
Because I'm a showman.
It's nervous excitement.
Nervous excitement. So first 4 questions: what are you riding? What got you into biking? What is your dream bike? That could be a difficult one because there's so many good bikes out there. And then what's your dream trip or dream road to go on?
Wow.
What are you riding at the moment?
What am I riding? I only own one roadworthy bike at the moment, and that is my trusty tractor, the GS 1250. I've still got the Gixxer Thou that I took on the world trip, but it's not roadworthy at the moment. Most of the fairings are held on with like bungee cord and been plastic welds and cable tied back together, and I've not turned the engine since 2015. So you know, it would need a fair bit of work to get it past the MOT because most of the back of the bike's hanging off. But I will be getting that back on the road at some point. And then I've got a little wee cheap Chinese import 125cc that I got as part of the TV show I did last year. And that's sat in the garage needing some work. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to do something. So that's what I'm riding at the moment, GS.
Although it does sound like your bike with the bungee cords would probably still start better than your BMW. Too soon. What got you into biking then? What was the kind of thing? How long have you been biking? You know, as well.
No, I've not been riding that long. 2008, June 2000. Or was it July? That's terrible. Can't remember. It's either June or July. I think it was June. The reason I'm trying to remember when it was is because I basically passed my bike test just before my mum passed away, because she was like a big influence as to why I did my test. I first got into bikes when I was wee. I was about 4 or 5, and I remember my dad used to work offshore on the rigs, and I remember my dad coming home on shore one time with a pal of his, and his pal turned up on a great big blue Suzuki Bandit. I think this thing looked massive to me because I was only wee. And I remember he picked me up and he ponked me on the tank of the bike. And from then on, I was like, bikes are. Can we swear in this? Are you allowed to swear?
Aye, go on.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just remember thinking bikes are fucking amazing. You know, I want one of these. But obviously, my mom and my dad were like, no, bikes are dangerous. You're not having a bike. You're not having a bike. You're not having a bike. So I never had one growing up. And then in my teenage years and into my 20s, and once I moved down to London, and you know, I ended up joining the old Bell, and I always thought, I want a bike. But when you're scraping people up off the road who are on bikes, you're kind of like, maybe I won't. But then there was just one day, my mom had fought cancer for near on 10 years, and towards the end, I moved her in to live with me. It's a long story, but I ended up moving her in to live with me while she was going through her treatment. We didn't think this was the end or anything. It was just basically my folks had emigrated. So when she came back to the UK to go through her treatment, I said, come and live with me while you're doing that.
Yeah.
And one day we were watching the telly, and Long Way Round came on the telly. And I'd already seen Long Way Round. You know, my mum and dad had bought me the box set back in, 2004, something like that, when it came out. So I'd seen it all, and I remember thinking, I want to do that. That's something I want to do at some point, you know. But I'd never done it. And then 2008 comes along. I'm sat there on the couch watching it with my mum. And I start moaning and saying, you know, it's all right for McGregor with all that money. You know, Hollywood celeb, everything everyone else says, you know, if I had all that money, I'd go and do this, I'd go and do that. And my mum just turned around to me and she said, look, you've always spoke about riding a bike and you've never done it. And you've always spoke about traveling, you've never done it. And she said, don't get to my stage in life where you're facing the end and you regret what you've not done. You know, she said, as far as we know, we get one chance at this. So look after those that you love, but live your life. And it genuinely was like a thunderbolt going off. You know, it was just like, Jesus, right, I'm going to do this. And I picked my laptop up there and then, and I Googled, how'd you get a motorbike license? And the DAS thing came up. And that was it. I found a DAS near me, booked myself on it, and bosh, done. So by the time I'd done the DAS course and I passed the test, I failed first time because I put my foot down in a U-turn. So
all the best people fail first time, it's all right.
Absolutely. It's amazing how many people do fail first time. So I passed the test and I went straight to my local sort of dealership, P&H in Crawley, and I picked up my brand new J6R 600 that I'd bought. So that had been sat there waiting for me. Put on my two-piece Dionysi leathers and jumped on the bike and I rode it to the hospice where my mum she decided she wanted to pass away in a hospice. She didn't want to pass away in my flat, bless her. So I rode it to St Christopher's Hospice in Penge, walked into her ward, saw her at the other end of the ward and shook the keys, said, look, I've done it. I've passed my test. So she gave me a big hug and she just said, look, promise me that you'll do this trip. Promise me you'll do it. So I did, and sadly 5 days later she lost her battle, and that was it really. I was going around the world, so I decided to leave on her birthday, October the 1st. At the time I was in the old Bill and I knew we had the Olympics coming. I've jumped forward a wee bit here, but I'll be as quick as I can.
Take your time, mate. I knew that's a good story.
I knew we had the Olympics coming at 2012, so I thought there's no way I would be able to take like a sabbatical from work. In the old Bill, you could take up to a 5-year unpaid career break, right, within reason. So I was trying to take 2 years unpaid leave to go and do this trip, but I knew I couldn't do that until the Olympics were done because it was all hands on deck basically for the Olympics. So I thought I'll go 2012, October 1st. And that was it. Wow. Set a date in mind and off we went.
It's amazing how these significant events happen in life and change the course.
And I've heard that. And I mean, obviously, having watched the channel and listened to loads of the Brew Times, I've heard that story a couple of times, and it still gets to me. Do you know what I mean? That just something like that has went on that long, and then you might as well listen, just go and do it. And that slogan, I know we have a question later just to how you came up with that, which you kind of answered, but that whole live your life thing, it does. You know what I mean, there's no better way to do it.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
absolutely not.
Just go and do it. Go and live your life. I mean, you only get one shot. This isn't a rehearsal. Just go and enjoy yourself because you just don't know.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I understand that feel. My mum, again, I lost my mum same through cancer, and she was very. I mean, it was only 5 months between diagnosis and losing her, but it was very much the same. That kind of, do not just get on and enjoy and do things that you really enjoy doing. So
Absolutely.
And it is something like that just makes you realise, you've got to have fun and.
Definitely.
But
you can't be. It's weird though, because you can't be reckless, can't you? You can't just go, screw it, I'm gonna spend all my money and go and do this, or I'm gonna go and do that. I'm gonna do that. You kind of have to. You've got to live for today, but plan for tomorrow. It's like a happy balance, isn't it? But I've basically since then, that's kind of how I've tried to live my life. Really, is live my life, as best you can.
Well, that's kind of it was kind of that thing. You mean that you always say at the end of every show, at the end of every end of every video, that kind of we were obviously sat during lockdown and we were obviously chatting, and there's a group of us that where we all used to work, and we had all on a little kind of motorbike group where we all kind of rode and we all shared parking spots and stuff like that at the work, and me and Ian were obviously chatting away and stuff, and I was like, during lockdown I was like, we should just give this a go. How hard can it be? And what's the worst that happens? We put it out there, nobody listens to it, and then we'll just forget about it and we'll go on. And we did the first one, and you know yourself, a little bit nervous at the start, but by like half hour in, we just forgot we were recording and we were just chatting absolute garbage. You know what I mean? For 2 hours, and we finished it and went, "This is just, let's just keep doing this. Let's just see how far we can push it." So I totally get what you mean. It's finding that balance where don't do something because of the fear of failing or the fear of, actually just plan to do it. You don't need to do it right this second, but
yeah, absolutely,
go and do it.
Absolutely. I mean, like no successes ever come around from not attempting something. Do you know what I mean? No one's ever gonna make something happen if you don't at least give it a try the first time.
Yeah.
And you're probably gonna have to try it, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000, who knows? You're going to fail. There's no doubt about it. You will fail initially. I'm saying fail. That's a fucking horrible expression. But do you know what I mean? Like, you might not achieve what you set out with initially. You might not reach whatever level it is that you want to get to initially, but you just have to keep going and keep going and figure out your path, and eventually you get there. That's just life, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
It is life.
You'll see in the background, I'm a big ice hockey fan.
I saw that. Yeah.
So we go to ice hockey stuff, and we all follow ice hockey. And I think it's Wayne Gretzky says, "You will miss 100% of the shots that you don't take."
Yep.
And
absolutely. That's what I was trying to think of.
It's absolutely true. You know what I mean? If you don't know, if you don't try it, you'll never know.
Yep.
So, dream bike. Here's a tough one for you because you've driven a lot of bikes. So if money was no object, what would you go for?
God, do you know? Depends what you want, though. It depends what you want out of a bike. I mean, I am a massive fan of the new Gen 3 KTM Super Duke car. I think it's just, for me, it is an amazing machine. I love it. It's an utter maniac, but if you want it to be, but it's also really well behaved. The fueling's beautiful. I think it looks stunning. It sounds amazing. It handles gloriously. But sadly, it's a KTM, and even the press one that I had, I only got 3 rides out of it before it shit itself in my garage, and that was just a simple hose. It's a brand new bike, and it was just a simple hose came off. But that's just, maybe that's just the character of a KTM. I don't know, but I love that bike. But then another bike, which has been a huge shock to me. I almost feel like I've given up on life when I say this, but the Honda Goldwing, it's amazing. One. Oh, it's just outstanding.
I would love to get a test drive on one. I'm going to chat up our local dealer to see if they'll let us take their demo on it, because it's so many. And I always know if the likes of yourself, Vida, Lamb Chops, TMF, if you guys actually put your hand in your pocket and buy a bike, then I know that to me is these guys ride loads of bikes, and if they're liking that bike, Andy's maybe a bit of an exception because Andy's got way too much money, if you ask me. And Andy, if you're listening, I apologise, but you've got way too much money. His garage is huge.
His money. He enjoys his money.
But the fact that he went out and bought one with his own cash was like, and again, they're no cheap. Do you know what I mean? And they are touring bikes. Do you know what I mean? But it's just that.
Do you know, like the biggest surprise for me with the KTM with the Goldwing is I thought the Goldwing was going to be a mile muncher. I thought it was going to be a dual carriageway, a motorway machine. It's absolutely not. It's the most boring bike you'll ever chuck your leg over if all you're going to do is sit on the motorway or dual carriageways. It's not fast. They're limited. It was limited to 113 mile an hour, obviously on a private road. But, you know, you would think on a big 2.5 litre or whatever that bike is, I was expecting that thing to be like a rocket ship up to sort of reasonable speed.
Reasonable speed. Like 113 is no reasonable.
Do you know what I mean? Like I was
that you put the wee thing all your way for.
Aye.
The wee black square.
This is it. Yeah. But where that bike, where the Goldwing comes alive, is in the backcountry twisties. You know, like your B roads, your really tight, gnarly, twisty stuff. It is an incredible handling bike. You can put it on its gear. It's stunning. And when you whack it in sport mode, the grunt is just beautiful for like B road or twisty A road riding. It is an awesome machine, and you can put someone on the back, and they're in total luxury. My missus loved pillion on that, and she hates riding a bike. And she was like, "Yeah, buy one of these." I said, "Give me the money, and I will."
Yeah, no bother. Yeah, okay. Hang on, nip down to that tree at the bottom of the garden and pluck some fivers. Aye, that's surprising. But I suppose it is difficult because I know you were a fan of was it Street Fighter? You were a fan of was it the Street Fighter?
Street Fighter. No, I've not ridden that. Oh, I've not ridden the Street Fighter. No.
Wow. I think you were a fan of that.
No, I took out one of the old Multistradas. I had a shot at one of them. They're good. Yeah, that was good. I've not ridden the V4 yet. I'm trying to get hold of Ducati. UK is a bit of a nightmare, but I've not ridden the new Multistrada yet.
That's probably because they're still fixing the engines.
I tell you, the new MV Augustas. You know, if you want a bit of bling for your garage, the new MVs. I rode some of the inline fours a couple of years ago, and in all honesty, I thought they were useless for the road, because unless you were doing 110 plus, there was no point in that bike. It was
really
just junk. But the new ones, even the inline four, even the 1000cc inline four, was beautiful. Chops and I had them for the fish and chip run on the big hunt. I had the 800 and Chops had the 1000, and obviously, and we swapped around on them. I preferred the 800, but the 1000 inline 4 was so much better than the previous ones I'd ridden. Yeah, I don't know what MV have done, but they've really nailed the road riding for their inline 4s. They're great.
Not to get in the way, but you did look like you were shifting at times. Do you know what I mean? Between chip shops and those two.
Well, you're hungry, aren't you? You're going to be. You know?
I don't think they were that hungry. Because it was like, are you hungry? No really, no.
Yeah, no, not really. Got to stuff another fish and chip supper in. Jesus.
It's a hard life, isn't it? This is the last of our questions, or the last of the average biker's questions.
Which is your dream trip or road?
Which I'm really interested in, considering what we're going to talk about later.
Right.
You going round the world, like.
Okay. Right. Well, the dream trip, I've kind of done, but there's a lot that I didn't do on the world trip. So, you know, for me, I think my dream trip would be the trip I set off to do initially, which was, in my eyes, properly around the world. You know, all around Europe, all around Africa, through the Middle East, all over sort of Northern Europe, right across Russia, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, India, I missed out India, I missed out China. I really wanted to do Nepal. I wanted to ride to Everest Base Camp, but didn't do that. I never got to New Zealand, so I'd love to do that. I never got to the very bottom of South America, Ushuaia.
All right.
So I'd love to get there. And I'd basically love to do all of South America, because I did the Pan American, basically the west side of South America, from Santiago in Chile up. So there's like Brazil and everything. It's such a huge continent, South America. So I'd love to do more of that. I would love to spend a lot more time in Mexico, because that was amazing. People are so friendly, man. It's just a great country.
And yet ironically, the last what was it?
Long Way Up.
You and Charlie's Long Way Up. Mexico was the one everybody was pure panicking about.
Yeah, understandably, there is some nasty things going on there for sure. But like Russia, I mean, this is topical at the moment. Russia was probably one of the biggest surprises for me. Bear in mind, it was back 2012, 2013, I went through Russia, but it was such a friendly country. The people were amazing. They really were. And the polar opposite of what I thought Russians were going to be. It was a real eye-opener.
I think Russia's one of the, having watched your thing and just realising just how beautiful certain parts of Russia is, because obviously watching you around the world trip, there were certain things in Russia I was like, what is that? And then you start Googling and you learn more about Russia. But you're right, the people just seemed so willing to help and so chilled out, and you're going, do you know what, I wouldn't want to do around the whole of Russia, but drive around certain parts of Russia and see some of the things that you would, obviously again, that's not going to happen for a couple of years now, but you kind of looking at it and going, that was a surprise. You know what I mean, for me watching your thing was the just how, as you say, how different Russia actually is. Do you know what I mean? And I think, I know we're talking about you and Charlie when they did theirs back in 2000 whatever. You didn't really see that much of Russia. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of in and out, and it was more about getting to the Road of Bones and getting to Magadan, and that part you didn't. Whereas you covered so much of Russia. And
I mean, I think I do get it with Ewan and Charlie though, because they were creating a TV show, so they have the whole backup and the film crew that are with them, and the whole support that goes with them. But they're also going to be, I mean, it's Ewan McGregor at the end of the day. It's Ewan McGregor with a film crew. So the Russian authorities are going to be all over that, because they're going to be very conscious that...
Don't look up that street.
It's not so much that. It's that obviously they're going to want to portray the best possible image they can of their country, aren't they? So they're only going to want that film crew to see the absolute best that they can show them. Do you know what I mean? So obviously there's going to be the security side of it as well, for sure there is. But I think maybe with something like The Long Way Round, where you've got a full-on like film crew coming. I know it was only oh God, what was his name? Oh, the cameraman. I've forgotten his name. I'm so sorry, I've forgotten his name.
Claudio.
Claudio. Sorry, Claudio.
Sorry, Claudio.
It was only Claudio sort of there on the bike, but they did have other people with him, other camera crew there as well for certain stages. And I do think they get a little bit of unnecessary criticism for their trip, because they're trying to produce a proper TV series, so their hands are a wee bit tied, and I know there's certain things that happened, especially doing the Road of Bones, which maybe weren't as random as they were made out to be. There was things set up but it made for really good viewing, and it made me want to do that trip.
Exactly, and it probably inspired a whole load of other people to go, do you know what?
Absolutely,
I want a bike. Maybe not so much I want to get in the world, but I want a bike. I just think, seeing how friendly the people were in your trip, I don't see why that's because I now look at, obviously, trying not to go too topical here, but obviously what's going on, and my daughter's at that age, she's almost 18, and she's doing politics and things like that at school, and this is obviously quite a good conversation we have in our house, and I'm going, but probably having watched your videos and seen how those people are, I'm going, there's probably 99% of people in Russia don't want all this carry on that's going on at the minute, because they are so chilled out. And they don't want to be losing Champions League finals and Grand Prix and all this kind of stuff. They just want to be at peace, get on with their stuff, and live their life. Ironically, and it's just
welcome
that
visitors.
and it's just that 1% that obviously are in power that's ruining it for them.
I've been to Russia, to St. Petersburg, which again was not at all what I imagined Russia was going to look like.
It's very European, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very
St.
European, to be fair to you. So, but everybody, as you say, everybody was super friendly and so welcoming for you to come in. Even the border guys at the border were actually kind of genuinely wanting you to come in and see, the bits of St. Petersburg that were just stunning.
And I'll tell you that was something that was reinforced almost every single country I went to on my trip. I went to 54 different countries, and I would say almost every single one, everybody is exactly the same as us. Everybody is just, as you said already in this, everyone is just wanting to crack on with their life. They want to look after their own family and their friends, and they will help if they can. If they're in a position to help, they will. And you find people just opening up their lives to you, inviting you into their homes. And some of them have got absolutely hee-haw. They've got nothing. Like, they live in a shack, but they open that up to you, and whatever they've got, they will give. It's really humbling to travel overland, not fly in, get a bus to the tourist hotspot and live in your little tourist cocoon, but to travel overland where you're crossing borders with normal local people, mixing with normal local people, taking the roads, the paths, the tracks, shopping, getting your fuel where the normal people go. It is a really humbling experience. I urge everybody to give it a go. It's awesome for the soul.
That's episode 18. We're going around the world. I'm just letting you know. You better tell,
okay with that.
better tell Susan. Better tell Susan.
I mean, she'll have to walk the dogs a bit more.
Aye, take the dogs' ways. I'm sure you get a knapsack.
Chuck them on the back.
Aye. Where are we?
So we'll get to the main. That wasn't even the main question.
That wasn't even the main questions. That was just our 4 questions. Do you know what I mean? Could be a long night.
It could be.
Glad Susan's walking the dogs.
Absolutely. So for anyone that hasn't seen your channel, then what do they get when they join your 60,000 plus YouTube subscribers? Tell them exactly what Teapot One's all about.
Do you know? You've caught me. You've caught me really at a bit of a moment, because I'm not entirely sure. I'm not really sure what the channel is about. I genuinely I'm not, because I started the channel to document the world trip, and then once the trip was done, I thought that was it. It was finished now. So I didn't do anything for a couple of years, and I really missed the interaction. Like in the comments, and I just missed being on camera and like having a bit of an integration with the community. So I only had about 600 subs by the time I finished the trip. It wasn't big. And so at the end of 2016, I just started doing vids, because loads of people had been in touch over the last year or two asking me, what you doing now? How's life? How are you? Loads of questions that I got off people. So I just started, I think I did a Q&A or a couple of Q&A vids, just running through questions that people had asked. Cheers, Slange. And I'd started following people like Casey Neistat, he was big on YouTube at the time. And I just loved that vlogging style. So I sort of made it a bit of a vlogging channel. So it started with some just vloggy type vids. And then I started doing trips again. Like, I did a couple in Europe, and then I started going to Spain all the time, taking mates to Spain. So we just started doing a lot of trips to Spain and a lot of trips around the UK, and it just sort of grew and grew, really. And then I started doing the odd bit of review stuff. Then something happened where I made the decision to leave my previous employer. So I was in a position where I could go full time at this. And then COVID hit. And so I couldn't travel. I couldn't do anything that I'd sort of set my mind up that the channel was going to be all about travel and meeting people and experiencing new things again. So it just became a bike review channel because that's all I could do was just, the manufacturers were still giving bikes. So I was just doing bike reviews. And they, to be fair, they get a lot of views. The touring stuff doesn't get any views really. So all of a sudden the channel started getting a lot of views compared to what it normally did. And I was just like, oh, is this what I do now then? Do I just do bike reviews? I don't want to be just another bike review channel, So I'm sort of in that stage at the moment going, shit, what is the channel? What I'm all about? So I'd be interested to know, what do you think? What do you think the channel's about?
See, for me, it started with because the first thing I ever watched on your channel was the world tour. Was you jetting? Well, you were the jet. Well, you were jetting. You mean you were the jigsaw? But you were going obviously around the world, and that kind of started it. And then I didn't watch much after that, and then went back to the channel. And you're right, there was a lot of reviews on there, and I'm going, oh, this is quite nice because you get to know about bikes that normally I would never have went out and test drove anyway. But for me, I personally enjoy the trips because again, it's maybe somewhat like the Slovenia one at the minute. Slovenia is number no. I would never have thought. Do you know what? You know where's really nice to go? Slovenia. I mean, I would never have thought of that. And then it was off the back of kind of falling in love again with how people can go away for 3, 4, 5, 10, 3 weeks sometimes and do these things. It's not taking 400 days out of your life to go around the world, but you can take a week off and go and explore somewhere, even if it is, the North Coast 500, or go around Wales for 3 or 4 days, or just through the tunnel and down and go to the Picos or whatever. And then that kind of, I was like caught up to date with everything you were going, what am I going to watch now? I've got an itch and I can't scratch it. And then that's when I discovered Richie Vida, because obviously you guys, I think, had done the whole
bike versus planes.
That thing, the bike versus plane, the Top Gear thing, as you guys call it. And then when I got his, then I started watching his stuff as well, and he'd obviously been doing the Wild Bad stuff. So for me, I tune in for that. I don't really bother about the bike reviews as much because everybody's doing bike reviews and everybody's got their own opinion. And for what you might enjoy on a bike, I might not enjoying a bike. You might not enjoying a bike. So I
think what you've got in from watching obviously the travelling stuff and and then the fun, the real fun stuff like the silly stuff like the chip shop run and all that kind of stuff, right? It gives a level of trust that actually makes your bike reviews, in my opinion, more relevant to me because I see in myself that kind of level of fun for a biker, or that kind of level of understanding that I've got with biking, and I'm not a point and squirt guy. I would,
Excuse me? You're a witness. You're a witness.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad the family door was completely shut at this point.
I don't want to jump on a Hayabusa and just kind of point it in a straight line and go and see what happens, right?
I'm refraining at this point.
I know, you're doing well.
Thanks.
And but like for instance, because I was really interested in that Sportster S, I really wanted to understand the Sportster S. You were the first person that I wanted to see on the Sportster S and watch the review around that, because it's about having a connection with a presenter that you trust. You trust what you're saying is not influenced by Harley or influenced by whoever you're on the bike with. You're genuinely telling the truth. So I think it's a nice balance to have funny. Both. And I mean, I don't know what it's like in terms of commercially, if the bike reviews kind of help you do the travelling kind of stuff and things like that, but I would watch your bike reviews because I've seen you travel around different parts of the world and say, well, actually, I get this guy. I get what you're doing, and I understand what you're saying, and it's kind of my way of thinking, or it's not my way of thinking, in that sense. And I think, but I trust that you're no bullshitting it. You know what I mean? You're being genuinely saying this is exactly what I do or do not like with with this bike, for instance. So
I think the only one review of yours I actually purposely went looking for and I mean, it's going to sound weird, is when you took the live wire out.
Oh yeah,
Purely because we'd had the whole plane thing, and someone took, was it Andy Mancam took the Zero, and you were obviously on combustion bikes, and obviously combustion is, it's still, electric bikes for me, there's still a lot needs to be done in order for that to be, like, for me, a commercial switch. But having ridden the live wire myself, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what Teapot makes of this. And then when you went out and done it, I was like, watched it and went, aye, that's exactly how I felt. Because it was the, whoa, it's flying. So I think that's the only one I ever went purposely at the way to watch, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Was the live wire one, purely because I just wanted to see if your reaction was the same as my reaction when I took it. It was the fact that it's like a spaceship. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Just
it is, isn't it? A lot of the electric bikes are like that. They are a real. I thought I thought they might be a bit of a one-trick pony. Like initially, once you've rang its neck and felt that torque, that'll be that. Okay, it's done now. But it just never gets old. I still enjoy riding electric bikes, and I've been riding them for like 3 years now. But I still love it. I wouldn't spend my own money on one yet. Not yet.
No,
we're not ready yet.
I wouldn't know.
No, for sure. But I don't think we're a million miles away yet. I genuinely don't think we're a million miles away.
No, I think
the infrastructure's not there. It's okay if it's just one of you. But we did a thing when I was doing the motorbike TV show last year, we did a thing with 3 of us going away on the bikes. And that really highlighted how shit the infrastructure is.
Aye, when there's only 2 charging stations. Aye.
Yeah. Or none of them work. We went to a place in, where the hell were we? So we town, Essex way. Anyway, it had a purpose-built electric sort of station. So this car park was just for electric vehicles, and they had 18 charging stations there. One worked. One worked out of 18.
Aye. So, and then the other 16 were taken up by Audi drivers. I don't know where these people are getting the money for these e-trons, but I see them everywhere.
The thing that frustrates me about that is when it's hybrid cars and they plug them in, and you're like, fine well that you're doing 10 miles in electric and 300 miles in diesel. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Your vanity project.
I've never watched. I think that's not true. I've never watched. I have watched the Brew Time podcasts. Obviously, you video them and put the videos out as well. I think the only ones I've ever watched, purely because I like having the podcast just on in my ear, so that I can go on with cleaning the bike or doing whatever it is, and hear the gab going on in the background and kind of chuckling away to myself. And the amount of times I've went through the house with Owen, and obviously you get your little earbuds in and nobody really kind of sees you with them in, and then I just start giggling and folk go, he's lost it again. You know what I mean? But actually I'm listening to some of the hilarity.
We said that before you even started listening to podcasts.
True. Sometimes I just giggle without the earbuds in. But the ones that usually have, what you guys class as the boy band, the ones that usually have the boy band, I always watch those because I like to see the reaction on some of the other guys' faces, just because some of them, Richie Vida takes a fair bit of abuse on, he takes most stick on these, do you know what I mean? And plus, if it's kind of remote, I always like to see kind of what kind of sex toy Andy's got in the background. So I watch those, but the rest of the podcast I'll listen to purely for that reason. But I like the way that you split the channel, because I think that meant, for me, it meant that was everything else I could just watch on the normal channel. And then obviously when we did the boy band or a boy band reunion, I could just jump onto the Brew Time channel and just see that and scroll through and find it. So that was quite a clever idea. Rather than
I had to do that because the podcast, the videos for the podcast were crucifying the main channel. Because when I first started doing it, it was like the algorithm loved it because the view, like the average view duration was about 28 minutes, 29 minutes, which for YouTube is enormous. It's massive. Most big channels out there, the average view duration is like 2-3 minutes, maybe 4. It's not big. Whereas with the podcast, it was 28, 29 minutes. So the algorithm was like, awesome.
Yay!
So it started, I could see it chucking me out to a whole new audience. And it was like, brilliant. I've cracked it. Awesome. But then very quickly, within a couple of weeks, it's like the algorithm sort of went, oh, okay, so we're getting about 28, 29 minute view duration, but 3 people are watching the vid rather than the usual X amount, Yeah. So it was like, and then it literally, it stopped shipping me out to anywhere near the audience that I had before. So it just nosedived. So I was like, no, what am I going to do? So that's why I started up the second channel and punted everything over to there. Took a while, but managed to bring it all back again. But so the 2 separate channels seems to be the way to go for sure.
Because I think we'd initially just started when we obviously published we published the broadcast.
Yep.
There's the option to click a button and you get like the video version, but there's obviously no images on it. You just get the actual audio.
Just listen to it via YouTube, yeah.
And we'd have been putting that onto YouTube, and it's like we'd always kind of went, right, well, that gives it as another medium for folk to, but it's so difficult to try and maintain that as well as all the other ones that you're trying to do. And we're thinking, is there any point? Because if we're going to start then doing like maybe reviews or tours or that kind of little, is it worth us putting it all in that big melting pot, or do we just keep it separate? And so I think for the new, we're kind of saying, right, let's just leave YouTube. Leave everyone else. Everyone else usually gets the podcasts and the other kind of podcast platforms anyway. And folk, as we've seen, don't listen to them. You know what I mean, without the video. I think if we had the video, it might be slightly different. But
the one time we put the video up the podcast and it was the Sports to Rest, because we've taken the Sports to Rest
That's
out.
right.
That's probably been our best views because obviously Sports to Rest will have triggered a lot of.
It's back to what you were saying about
you
the
get
views,
search
the
traffic.
fact that, exactly.
So
I would suggest, though, I genuinely would suggest just have a channel. Just have a channel on YouTube for the video version of your podcast. Have your audio podcast and have a video version as well. And then, another channel which will do your on-bike stuff or, your normal stuff. So, well, not normal, but do you know what I mean? Anything that's not what we're doing here, have that on the other channel. And you can just have the 2 of them running along side by side. And as your podcast grows in audience, you'll naturally get a drip feed of them who will want to watch video. For me, it's about, I would say, I think I get about somewhere in the region of maybe 12 to 15,000 downloads a month on the audio side of it. But on the video side, I'll maybe get 700 views to maybe 1,500 views for a vid. So it's a massive, it's a big 10%. Drop.
Yep.
But I managed to monetize the podcast YouTube channel reasonably quickly because I had, as soon as I put out there that I've split the channels, then some of that following on the main channel, they do like watching the videos. So the podcast videos, so they jumped across. So quickly I got to that sort of monetization level. And then you've got 2 platforms that are monetized. And although the podcast makes like 15 quid a month, 20 quid a month, it's nothing, but it's something, and it's something that's there and that can just grow in the background.
Beer money.
So it's worth doing.
It's beer money for the next show.
I was going to say it's a tank of fuel, but it's not even a tank of fuel anymore, is it?
No.
It's like half a tank now.
No, and I don't know how dear it is down there, but up here it's still like, was it 142.9 or something for E10?
Oh mate, well, there's a couple of petrol stations down here, Cobham services on the M25. I think that's 180 for super unleaded now.
Yeah, I drove down to London.
I'm nearly 30 quid to fill up the GS, like a normal, not a GS Adventure, but a GS. So I think it's about 29 quid to fill it up now.
Wow.
Ouch.
Yeah. Tell me.
Ouch.
You've not got an ouch button in your thing.
No, I know. Guess what's going on for the next podcast? Ouch. A big ouch button. Let's talk a little bit more about, again, your Patreon members are going to love us if they're listening to this. Let's talk a bit more about you going around the world. What was your favourite country? Or let's make it a little bit easier. What was your favourite part of the trip and why?
My favourite part?
Yeah. Or country.
Genuinely, there were so many. There's I'd done a lot of Europe before, like mainland Europe. I'd done a lot of the main places before I went away anyway. So, but I'd never done like the Scandinavian countries. So I found Norway. Norway was awesome, and I'm dying to get back to Norway. I just love the place. The biking community is mega strong. Doesn't matter what you ride, doesn't matter what you look like. They don't care. You know, if you're on 1, 2, 3, 4, they don't care. Just you're part of a little sort of family. It sounds corny, but you are. They really look after you in Norway, and the country is stunning. It's massive and it's stunning. So I'd love to get back there. Finland was stunning just because there's bugger all there. There's up in the north, there is nothing. It's just forest. It's amazing. I got charged by a moose. It was just what an insane place. Loved it.
Charged by a moose.
Yeah.
And we don't mean the Angel Delight variety. We're talking full-blown 8 feet thing with horns.
A horse cow mutant thing. Yeah. Romania was amazing. Some great riding roads there. And again, really, really friendly people. Not what you think. You know, you think you're going to have the Romanian sort of Jippo pikey types, and it's not like that. They're just really, really nice people.
I've got a pal who's Romanian, and he's the nicest guy I think I've ever had the privilege of knowing, even though he used to live in Maidenhead, and he's actually moved to Maidenhead back home, back to the motherland as he calls it. And even now, I mean, they were doing a limited edition Pepsi can thing, which my daughter was desperate for, couldn't get it anywhere. And I texted him and just said, listen, any chance you can see if they do them there? And he texted me back literally within like a day and went, I've got you 6. I'll sort out shipping it out to you. Just send me your full address. Bang, brilliant. Jobs are good. Wow. And I'm like, awesome. It just sums, you know what I mean? They are, I totally get the Romania thing. So super friendly.
Well, I've already said about Russia. I mean, again, I'd go back to Russia. No problem. Loved it. Japan. I did fall for Japan massively. It is a beautiful, beautiful country with beautiful people. Just they are so nice and respectful out in Japan. I loved it. It was one of those places where I remember feeling almost at home. It was weird, you know, because they treated me like a god, because I was a big fat bald white geezer with a beard on a Suzuki, and they just thought I was awesome. You know, they just opened the doors to me. It was awesome. I loved it. I lived with a family over there for about 4 weeks. An Aussie expat, Pete. I don't know, Pete, if you're going to be watching, but Pete Wilkinson, he sort of helped me out when I crashed, and he helped me rebuild the bike, and basically I lived with him and his family for almost a month, and all his friends, you know, expats and Japanese that I like, they all just sort of welcomed me into their lives and looked after me. What a place. Loved it.
That's on my list, definitely.
I would agree. That for me, that's probably the highlight of the trip. Was obviously you'd been, because you went out and you'd done the up into the mountains and you had the barbecue and the campfire and all that, and then obviously been the bike, and then it was lying his guys for like what seemed an eternity, but they were just so happy that you were there, and you know, nothing was an issue, and it was like, wow. You know what I mean? That to me, if you go around the world and experience anything close to that, even if you could, you know what I mean, drive from here to whatever and experience anywhere near that, then that just makes the trip. Do you know what I mean? Because that's something that you're going to take away and never. You can't go into would you call it what's that travel site thing? Expedia.
Aye.
You can't go into Expedia and go, I want to do this, and click and then book that. That's only something that you fall into. So that was the highlight. That was one of my highlights of the Round the World thing, was Pete and the building a bike, and stripping a bike down into tiny number of parts, and then having to get stuff shipped over, and that must have been quite stressful. I don't know if my blood pressure would have taken that right enough.
I mean, only I could take a Japanese bike to Japan and then crash it during the 2 weeks that the Japanese take off. So like all the factories everywhere is shut in Japan for 2 weeks. Like the Suzuki factory was was a couple of hours ride away from where I was, but there's no point. I couldn't go there because nothing's open. They're not making anything.
The equivalent of the Glasgow Fair in Japan.
Aye, it is. Aye, it is. So we ended up having to buy all the parts off of some hooky like Japanese eBay site and get them all shipped in from there.
What was the hardest part of the trip then? And I think I know what the answer is, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
There were two, for me, there were two hardest parts. The first hardest part was leaving. That first day leaving, that was really hard. Just wrenching myself away from, my missus, my family, my son, and all my mates and my life, basically. Like the life that I knew, and making that conscious decision to leave that into, well, you don't know what's going to be like out there. So that was hard. And then making the decision to come back when it went a bit wrong in West Africa and Mauritania, that was hard. And that was really hard. And it was hard to deal with being home after that first sort of attempt, if you like. That was not a good point in my life at all. But then I got the option to go again, and that spurred me on to, it's a totally different mindset. It was like, I'm not giving up now. We just make it happen. Let's get it done.
Nice. And so you've obviously, if you could do it again, what would you do differently? Same bike, different bike? Would you go a different way around? Would you, what do you think you would do differently?
It's a difficult one now because I'm at a different place in my life now. I'm married. I was with my missus when I went the first time, but we met after I'd made the decision I was going to do it. So the whole time we were sort of courting and together, my missus knew that I had this trip on the horizon and I was going to be going away to do it, and she totally understood why I was doing it, the promise I'd made, and Nikki's an incredibly strong person. She was my rock the whole way through it, and she still is to this day. I'm very blessed as far as that's concerned. But it's almost like not that I wasn't thinking about her when I did that trip, but it's a different kettle of fish now. I can't just bugger off and disappear for a year and a half. So
it's a gold. It's a gold wing then. So it's a gold wing with a missus in the background. Is that what you're saying?
But yeah, it's almost like a hypothetical, because I think I'm not in a position financially or just in my life really where I could bugger off for a year or a year and a half, 2 years again. And for me if I was to go and do that trip again, I would really, like I said before, I'd want to be ticking off all those places that I didn't get to the first time. So you're looking at a year and a half, 2 year trip, realistically. What bike I would do it on, I genuinely don't care. Just whatever bike I've got in the garage at the time. If the Gixxer was running, I'd take the Gixxer again. If the GS is there, I'll take the GS. If the 125 was up and running, I'd take that. I don't subscribe to any of this notion that this bike is for that and that bike is for that. But in my head, that's bollocks. Any bike will go anywhere. It's down to the rider, pure and simply. Depends what you want from the trip.
Yeah. Aye, I think you've went around the world on a Gixxer, which you proved that can be done. You did the whole round the UK on a Sinus 125. Which we actually talked about years ago, didn't we? We talked about doing that for charity, just so that we could get a few days off work, because we thought if we get the work to buy into this, we could just do this, because some of us were only riding 125s at the time. And then you went and around and did it like 4 days, and we were thinking about like 10.
Two.
Aye, we were thinking like 10 days and milk it. Do you know what I mean? Just so
I'll
that we
tell
could
you
time
what,
off work.
Though, that I would say that was probably harder physically. That was harder than the world trip, I would say, even though it was only like 2.5 days. Or maybe it's because I'm older. I don't know if it's just because I'm like nearly 10 years older than I was before, but that took me about a week to get over. I was hanging.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was hanging at the end of that.
I do find
I couldn't see out. I couldn't see out my left eye. My left eye had blown. Couldn't see.
Jeez, I find it really difficult if I take my son's 125 out for a wee shot. He's got a wee mutt mongrel, which is just
Aye.
like it's an insane wee thing. It's great fun, absolutely great fun to ride around in. But you come off it going, I've been shaking in places that I've never thought I could have been shaking in. Do you know what I mean?
What is that bit? What is that bit? And what does that bit do? Because it's so.
Absolutely.
About the jigsaw, a lot of people said that to me, that you're mad to take that bike, or I can't believe you took that bike. But I just maintain that I'd always ridden the jigsaw. I'd passed my test straight onto a J6R 600, and then I rode that for about 8 months and moved to the thousands, and then I'd literally ridden a J6R 1000 every single day of my life. From that point onwards, I rode every single day. I used to do 45,000 mile a year. I was lived on my bike, basically. I don't own a car. So I was used to spending a lot of time on the jigsaw, a lot of time doing big miles. We used to do 800-mile days sometimes on trips, just crazy. I just wouldn't do that anymore. But I was used to doing it. So for me to then just, rather than being on my bike and riding around the southeast of England or around parts of the UK or across Europe, for me to just now be sat on a bike every day, but this time I'm just heading east, there's no real difference. The off-road parts were obviously a lot different, but they were a lot of fun as well. So it's just...
And I think, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, because you did it, I didn't, but I would imagine that meeting people and people saying, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then you go, "Well, I'm actually going round the world, and here's all the places I'm going." And then them looking and going, "On that bike?" Mental. Must have been a conversation starter.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, definitely. And it's also I like to be different. I don't ever want to be a sheep, and I'm not wanting to be big. I don't want to appear big-headed or a flashy prick or anything like that. I don't mean it like that, but I want to set my own way. Do you know what I mean? I just don't want to be beige. I don't want to be like everyone else. I want to do stuff the way I want to do it, and that'll be me. I'm not fussed if I don't really care how people take it, but that's just I'll do my thing the way I want to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the more
Sorry.
So go on.
I was going to say, I think if you'd done it in a GS, you're right. I think folk would have went, he's just fucking trying to copy the two clowns. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas you done it as Jigsaw, and folk must have went, he's fucking mental.
I did the trip trying to, it was for a promise as well. And obviously I wanted to do this trip, but I was trying to initially I set out to raise £1 million for 4 charities. So I wanted to be different. I wanted it to be every man and his dog at that point, sort of 2010, 11, 12. There was just every bike mag I looked at, somebody else was setting off to ride around the world. And everyone was doing it on a GS or, an off-roady bike, the sensible option. Everyone was doing that. And I'd seen Jacques Lucassen, I'd spoken to Jacques, he did a 5-year trip on an R1 all around the world. Incredible. How that guy is not like a god in motorcycling and every biker knows about him. I don't know. They should. It's incredible what he's done. Nick Sanders, I spoke with Nick, he's done like 15 different trips around the world on R1s, blades. He's done on all sorts, cycled around the world. So I'd spoken to those lads and I knew it could be done. So I thought, well, no one's done it on the Jigsaw, so I own it. I'll take that, and that will set me apart from, not the guff, that's horrible, but set me apart from the crowd that are doing this, because I want to try and raise the profile for the charities, to try and be a bit different. And in my head, I was like, 100,000 miles on a Jigsaw though. Well, that's £10 a mile. I'll raise $1 million for those charities, no problem. Didn't really work out like that, but that was sort of part of the logic really behind it. It's the bike I owned, and it's a bit different.
I think I think that was the kind of. I know we've talked quite. We might jump back to it, but patron. You mean the clan, as you call them, can now rest easy. We've covered everything we want to try and cover off on the trip, so they can all rest easy now. If you had it on mute, come back on now. That's it. However, caveat, we may dip back in and out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got one, and this is again. This goes back to a video, which again is in a video that inspired me to do my thing. I did mine. Well, I started mine when COVID hit in, so it took me a little bit longer because we never got rideouts and assessments. But I completed mine, my IAM course, after watching you doing, I think you 2 videos out, where you did a kind of little taster thing with the guys. Did you ever complete your IAM?
Well, I'm a trained police driver and rider, so we already qualify. So I've already done it.
There you go.
So yeah,
that answers
that. That answers your question.
That answers that.
Nice and easy.
Show off. Do you know what I mean? He didn't have to go through those months of doing rides and then go through what felt like another bike test.
It does make me laugh sometimes though with the IAM thing, and because like folk go, "Have you done the IAM?" And I'm like, "Well, I've trained. I did it in the police.
I know the roadcraft inside out. It's fine."
And people are like, "Oh yeah, we're trained to the same standards," and you're like.
No, you're not.
You're not, because these boys are taking that at like 160, 170 mile an hour, and you're doing it at 60. It's a wee bit different.
The IAM's like 2 pages compared to the roadcraft. I've got the roadcraft, and I got it, and I looked and I went, Jesus Christ, this thing's intense. Do you know what I mean? Compared to what the guys, compared to the book that the IAM gave you go, this looks quite easy.
I've still got that.
I think the fundamentals, though. I think the fundamentals. I don't think IAM and ROSPA is for everybody. I genuinely don't, because I think it depends what club you have, because all the clubs are very different. You get different sort of methods of teaching at different clubs, and I think it's a question of finding a club that fits you best. But then I also think not every biker is gonna fit that environment. But I think the fundamentals of roadcraft, every biker could benefit from, like reading a road, positioning, things like that. It'll save your life. Right. And, it can make you a bit quicker as well if you want that, but it'll make you safer on the road, for sure.
We did a whole show kind of talking about a whole question, talking about this, and that was the thing. It was you're right, it's not for everybody, because they will literally strip your riding down, and that sometimes can be soul destroying, because you actually... You start to feel a bit kind of deflated. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And then they build it back up so that you are safer. And the things that you learn, that you thought you were a good rider, and then you learn all these other skills, and you go, wow. You know what I mean? You would never thought of that.
That'd be overwhelming to a lot of people as well. If you're not,
totally.
Especially if you're if you're only out in the weekend kind of rider or whatever, and to be told that actually everything you're doing is wrong, or everything you're doing, it's I mean, I would be a bit nervous. I'd like to do it. I'd like to give it a go, but I think I'm a bit nervous about how bad I actually am. Considering.
And also, I think it's. So I go on, apologies, sorry.
No, I was going to say, considering I can drop a Sportster at 50 mile an hour, so, but
that's a talent right there.
That's a talent, absolutely.
It's not if you drop a bike, it's when. You're going to do it. Everyone's going to, if you're around bikes long enough, everyone will drop a bike at some point. It's going to happen. But the thing with IAM and ROSPA, I think I've seen it. Right, where I've spent some time around some of the instructors. And I look at the instructors and I'm like, Jesus, I think their riding's horrendous sometimes when I look at it. And I'm not God's gift by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not saying that. I'm no Rossi. But I'll look at some of their riding and go, oh, Jesus, that just doesn't look right. It doesn't look safe. Some of them. And other ones you look at and they're amazing,
I think it's... Even
how can they be instructing people when I'm looking at their riding and they're thinking, well, I don't think that's great.
I think the IAM club, they're broken into kind of like divisions or whatever it is, but the guys in Scotland don't teach how you can use the other lane, because obviously you read the book and it says you can use the whole road, and sometimes you use the opposite lane to give yourself the best view. Do you know what I mean, of bends and whatever. They don't teach that. That part they don't teach up here, but they still do in England, because
some clubs do in England. Yeah,
and it's like I can see it from both sides. Do you know what I mean? But it's one of those ones. It's just one mistake. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, in the old bill we're taught that as long as it's not a solid white, then use the entire carriageway.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, but the caveat on that is your presence on the road should never cause any oncoming vehicles to deviate in their course. And by that I mean, like, if you're coming up to like a left-hand sweeper or even a tight left-hander and you're all the way over to the right on the offside lane there, well, if a car all of a sudden comes round and you're still out there, they're gonna pee themselves, aren't they, or poo themselves? Fuck, who's this numpty? So in the old bill, they want you to be right the way out there, but they also want you to realise that there's a hazard way up ahead, and you then have to alter your course to come back into your own lane. You might stay centre position, so you've still got as much vision around that left as you can, but you're not going to be causing any alarm to anyone coming around the other way because you're not going to be in their carriageway. Do you know what I mean? But I think the IAM sort of a lot of them take the viewpoint of, we're just not even going to bother teaching that because that could just cause mayhem on public roads.
When you're lying in tracks and go, but they told me to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Didn't they?
That's The thought of that scares me to death. Doing that, do you know what I mean? I was like, I would never go in the opposite lane for any reason whatsoever.
But it's one of those things. You only push yourself as much as you can push yourself. You're not there to be. Go no, get the knee down. If you're not comfortable putting the knee down, don't put the knee down.
Do the IM rider skills days. They're good. It's on a track, but that's actually really worth doing. It's a lot of fun.
COVID kind of fucked that for me. So far because it's no.
They are good. A lot of fun.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's it. I'll be looking into it. COVID's kind of back up and running again. Or not up and running. Run away, hopefully. Well,
I just had it last week. I survived the last 2 years, and then I got it. I think probably I got it at the London Bike Show, but I came down with it last week. So yeah.
Hopefully it wasn't too bad. I was the same. Start of January. I avoided it for 2 years. Start of January, but I literally.
That was karma though, because literally we recorded my last podcast of the year, and he sent me. You know how there was a meme going about, and it was a lateral flow test, and rather than having CT, it'd CUNT on it, and he sent me this saying, "Oh, I've tested positive, blah blah blah," and I went, "Hi, very funny. You're hilarious." And then literally, about a week later, days before the last podcast of the year. By the way, I have actually got it. I was like, you twat.
UCUNT. So
karma.
And then late last year, you were part of the motorbike show, so as well.
Oh, the TV show, yeah,
the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
How did, and obviously being used to like doing all that and production on your own and everything. How was it? How did you find working with other people controlling your every move?
I didn't enjoy it. I've got to be honest. I really, I love Tom and Graham. I've known them for a lot of years. Great guys, and Christy is a load of fun as well. But as far as a working environment, I'm not used to somebody else tell me what to do, what to say, and how to do stuff. And I found that really hard, to be honest, because with a script, I'm getting told to say stuff that I don't. It's not what I think. Tell me to say stuff about a bike or bikes, and that's not what I think. And I make a big deal in my channel about what I say is what I mean. I won't bullshit. Absolutely. I won't lie. I'll say exactly what I think. There's a saying in the old bill, believe it or not, integrity is non-negotiable, and I totally agree with that. That's all you've got is your integrity at the end of the day. So I found it really hard. So I sort of found myself not butting heads, but I found myself a lot of the time saying, I can't say that. I'm not saying that. It's not what I think. So that caused a few issues, and I think the end result wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I just sort of initially I said I'd come back for a season 2, but then at the start of the year I just had to say to them, no, I'm not doing season 2. I'm going to do my own thing. So yeah, called it quits. But I'm glad I did season 1. It was a lot of fun, and I wish them the best. See what happens. Hope it goes from strength to strength for them.
Nice.
Probably will now I'm not on it.
Either that, or everybody will just start watching you. That's what you want. So,
that's the point.
And talking about that, you kind of touched on it earlier about what is the future of the channel. You know, you're kind of in this, you're in this kind of flux at the moment of what is it going to be about? Is it going to be more of you and lamb chops just kind of chasing fish suppers, or are you going to keep with some of the reviews?
Which, by the way, let's just reiterate, is pure genius.
That is pure genius, absolutely. Yeah. You know,
that's the big hunt, series, sort of collaboration. Yeah.
We may have to do
that's across the two channels.
Actually, you know, do you?
What, the small hunt?
The small hunt.
God, I don't really know. You know, I'm like I said to you, I'm in that weird place at the moment where I'm like, what is the channel about? What's it going to be? And it's very hard financially. I'll not lie. It's hard financially. I'm sort of scraping by at the moment, and I'm not sure how much longer I can keep doing that full time. You know, I might have to get a proper job. So I don't know. But in terms of the channel, I don't really know. I mean, I want the channel to be about, you know, promoting the whole live your life thing. I want it to be about getting out there and promoting biking here in our country, here in the UK. I want to get out there. I want to meet all the other bikers that are here, new ones, old ones, people that want to get into biking. You know, I want to do that. I want to ride the roads that people recommend with them. I want to hear about their dealer networks. I want to promote the good, and I want to highlight like the bad service. You know, if there's shops out there or calves out there that are shite, then we should be highlighting that to say, pull your finger out or you ain't going to survive, you know. But this place over here is shit up. Go there. I think credit where credit's due. We should be highlighting the good, but I think we should also sort of make people aware that they need to raise the game. Really, you know, the biking community is. It's a powerful group that we've got, you know, and it's
probably at its strongest, I think, ever, because I think COVID's really spiked the biking community in terms of the amount of people that are biking and how big the biking community's got. And do you know what I mean? I know we there's the mental health charity, the MHM. They're doing their thing about mental health within the biking community, and that again just shows you just how good the biking community is, and just the sheer size of it. You know what I mean? It's absolutely. I think it was an article in MCM in the last couple of weeks where they had an article just on the sheer volume of sales and the volume of uptake in training. Do you know what I mean? I think they've only kind of caught up on motorbike tests. Mm-hmm. Kind of the backlog of COVID, because people were like, I'm not doing public transport. Saw that. And go and do their CBT. And the minute they've done the CBT, they go, oh, here, biking's awesome. Sign me up for the Mod Bun. I'm on my way. You know what I mean?
I love that. The amount of people over COVID who got in touch and they'd found a channel through sorry to mention it again, through the world trip. And, you know, they were like, it just gave me the hunger. As you said, there was the fear of using public transport, and they thought, what else can I do? I'll get a little moped. So they Google that. How do you get that? Your CBT. They get that little taster, the wee experience of it, and like, shitballs, this is awesome. I'm loving this. So they start looking at bigger bikes. Sometimes they're just 400 cc's, 500 cc's. Some of them jump and do their dash, get onto the 600s. And it's those people that when that spark's ignited, and like just the sense of adventure where they can jump on a bike and piss off to Wales, or they can just, you know, they can go 80 miles from where they live, 50 miles from where they live. They don't need to worry about traffic, and they enjoy it. Even if they're riding in the rain, they're enjoying it and they feel alive. And I love that. Those messages you get from people that are just like, oh my God, where has this been all my life? This is amazing. I love it. And I think you're right. There has been a massive spike in growth within the community. There's a lot more younger people coming in, which was a big concern, wasn't it, in the industry? The industry was bricking it because everyone's like my age and more. Everyone's getting old, really. And there was no new blood coming in. Whereas now there is. You just need to look at TikTok or Instagram. You look at social media, there's a lot of young blood coming in. There's a lot of young lassies and women coming in now as well. So it's changing a hell of a lot, which I think is brilliant. You know, it's literally an almost untapped market now for everyone involved.
Absolutely. The range. I was down in London last week, and I went into the Bike Shed Motor Company.
You just had to get that.
Of course I did. I love that place, right? But just watching the range of people coming in on their bikes, parking their bikes in there and getting off and sitting down for a coffee or whatever. And as you say, it wasn't helps pensioners coming in for a scone. You know, it was definitely a real mix of, you know, men and women of all ages just coming in, just loving being on their bikes, you know.
Yeah.
And
the Bike Shed is interesting because I think they've done a really good job in how they've marketed that place, because when it first opened, it was a hipster place. It was a hipster hangout, you know. It was full of like young white lads with dodgy beards and man buns drinking coffee. That's basically what the Bike Shed was all about. And then it's sort of become just this mecca for bikers of every description. And they've nailed it. They really have nailed it. What bike calf can compete with the Bike Shed? You know what I mean? It's
probably free parking in London probably helps, to be fair.
Free parking.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's good.
Free parking. Oh, the joys.
I'd love to go to the one in LA. I think that'd be interesting to see what kind of range of people you've got in the Los Angeles.
I'd just be quite happy to get to the one in London, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? And given the fact that I travelled to London to work and I've never actually made it in there, it's a bit of a kicker.
The grubs, the food's awesome in there. Really good food.
Breakfasts are brilliant.
Oh, we know, because the first time we went, I said, send me pictures, I'd like to see it. And it was like, bing, 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 bing. It was like, right, enough, stop it, I get it. Bing, bing. Yeah. Any plans this year for the boy band reunion?
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly wanting to do another sort of collaboration, but it's a question of getting the time when we're all available, and to be honest, money as well. You know, the bike versus planes, it costs quite a bit of money to do that, and we didn't recoup that by any stretch of imagination in the ad revenue from the videos. They weren't particularly popular. You know, it's weird.
Because I think on one of the podcasts before, you guys talked about that, and I think you said that the mistake that he's kind of made was you all had kind of your own little version of the same thing, because you all kind of recorded it and then you all put it on your channel. And I watched them all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was good to see everybody's kind of own take on, you mean, what was happening, because it was difficult, I suppose, to take all of that footage and cram it all into one kind of, or one set of videos that was at least not like a whole kind of feature film or a whole series. You know what I mean? So I think it was, but I didn't think it would be cheap. You know what I mean? It can't be cheap flying a plane. Again,
well, that was it. And, you know, and to be fair, Andy stumped up that. And Andy's the one that covered the cost of the plane and everything like that. So, you know, fair play to the boy. But it cost him a lot of money, and he didn't recoup anywhere near that. But we do want to do something, but it's trying to decide what it's going to be. And there's limits about, well, I want to do a road trip. I'm really up for doing like a road trip to the Nürburgring or something like that. But we can't, because just with personal circumstances, some people can't get away. They can't do an overnighter. They're stuck to one day. So and obviously we've had COVID, which is just kiboshed a lot of things. TMF seems to permanently either be in lockdown or have COVID. He's had COVID about 8 times. His daughters have had it like 2 or 3 times. His daughters have, and I think he's had it once or twice now. His missus has had it, so you know they've been in like a perpetual lockdown. But it will happen. We're doing another live show, a live stream on Andy's channel. We're doing that in April, I think it is. So that'll be coming.
Are you going to the Wild Bad Weekender this year?
At the moment, I'm planning on doing it, yes. And I'm supposed to be, at the moment, I'm doing the Adventure Bike Festival on the 24th. I'm only going to be there for the 24th, that's it. But again, I don't really know what it's about, because they invited me as some part of some vlogging thing that they're doing. You know, like they've got loads of I hate this fucking term, influencers. They've got loads of bike influencers.
I know, that's why I put it in your intro, because I know you fucking hate it.
Yeah. And I said to them, what do you want me there? Do you want me to talk about my trip or something? And they were like, what trip? They didn't know about the world trip. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, I've done this trip. Do you want me to chat about that? So I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the plan is when I'm there.
What did your trip involve? Well, 54 countries, 470 blood days. Yeah, I mean,
it does sort of, it's like the whole ABR festival. I've not been, so I can't comment on it yet. But it seems to me, I just got the feeling it's the bike shed crowd for the adventure world. Do you know what I mean? It's like a mass produced event for the adventure world, whereas the sort of real adventure festivals that I've been to tend to be quite small, 200, 300, 400 people, and it's full of, you meet people that have just done incredible stuff, amazing things, and there's no, they're just part of the crowd. They're not up on stage giving talks. Like, people come up to you and chat to you about what you've done, and then during the conversation you find out that they spent 10 years like unicycling around the world, or they've done incredible stuff. So I really enjoyed those little festivals. I don't know what the Adventure Bike Festival is going to be like, to be honest. Like 7,000 people, it's mental. It's huge.
Sure, there'll be a video.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, cool. And then we can secretly watch and go, no, he was right. It's a hipster thing for the adventure.
But then, because everyone's going to be there, everybody that's got social media or YouTube, everyone's there. Everyone's going to be creating these videos, and that really turns me off. When I see loads of other people creating vids, I don't want to create a vid about it, because I'm just like, everyone's done it. Why? And I know I'm
just
always last because I'm taking so bloody long.
Get in everybody else's videos, and then that can just boost your. Would you quite without doing all the hard graft? That's what a better idea. On talking about that, time permitting, how much chance do you get to watch other YouTubers? And do you have any recommendations, or do you just not get time because you're too busy editing?
I genuinely don't get much time. I mean, I'm maybe a Sunday's probably the only real opportunity that I'll get for an hour or two to sit and watch something on YouTube. And I'll be honest with you, I tend not to watch bike stuff. I tend to watch like Peter McKinnon.
Oh, I love Peter McKinnon.
Casey Neistat.
Peter McKinnon.
Do you know what I mean? Aye. Peter McKinnon, Matty Hapocha, his stuff. There's a guy called Cody. Is it Cody Warren? Is it Cody Warren? I can't remember if it's Cody somebody anyway. Potato Jet, I watch him.
Potato Jet's brilliant.
All those, it's all those sort of channels.
Yeah.
iPhone do, people like that. I love all those channels. That's what I watch.
But do you find when you watch those kind of guys, so that then that's why you then become obsessed with your video editing, because they are so good at it, and and as we said right at the start, you put your video out and people watch it because of what you're talking about, not because of how it looks. I become pretty obsessed with, especially Peter McKinnon at the moment.
Stunning, isn't it?
It's the what it was. And then there's a guy called Daniel Schiffer. I don't know if you've watched his stuff.
Yeah.
And he's more about product videos and stuff, but some of the stuff he does in his home on a kitchen table, and you're going, it's just incredible. It's really superb. But
I think that's kind of why I feel. To be honest, this is like therapy. I feel like I'm failing. I genuinely feel like I'm failing on my channel, because I don't feel like I'm creating the content that I really want to make. Do you know, in the sense of the quality of it? Yeah. Because I watch all of these other channels and I'm just like, that is stunning. That's just beautiful. It's cinematography. And then I look at the Keith that I'm checking out and thinking, that's shite. I need to up my game. you know what I mean? But I'm just, I can't produce what they produce yet.
But then, but then you look at Peter McKinnon and you realise he's got a team of people behind him now. He's producing stuff now. You know, I mean, he's not filming it. Someone else is filming it. Someone else is editing it for him. He's just, you know, and it's about finding that. It's about understanding. I find a lot of person think it's about understanding that I cannot do that because I don't have, you know, thousands of pounds worth of sponsorship and you know,
and teams of guys that can spend,
you know,
forever
and live in Canada, which is beautiful. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah, but you're in Scotland. You're in Scotland, so it's stunning.
But it's wet 95% of the time.
Yeah. I can't put my drone up in the rain. Do you know what I mean? So,
if you look at McKinnon's early stuff, that's what I do. Is I go onto their videos, so I click videos, and then I sort it so it's from oldest to newest because I've watched all of it anyway. Yeah. But I look at I've just been doing this with Peter McKinnon. I'm looking at his first sort of 6 to 12 vids, and that is him filming it. He is filming it. And he is editing it, and there is a definite difference between that and his new stuff, but it's still really engaging. Really engaging. Yeah. You know, and I just that is what I want to create, but I'm not creating it, and I get annoyed because I think just fucking create that, but I haven't figured it out yet.
Where's the button that does that?
Yeah.
Where's the button that makes it? Where's the make it look like Peter McKinnon did this button?
Yeah. We did try that, didn't we? We do have a video of us introducing us on our bikes and everything, and it was a complete rip off of Peter McKinnon. You know what I mean? They did some sort of video, but he just got some guy's trail bike and he'd videoed that. When I went, I'm just going to, you know, copy it, you know, flattery and all that, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's a good way to learn as well, though. Is just to dissect a sequence and then just copy it and see how they did it. I went through a stage in some of my bike reviews and product review stuff where I was doing like voiceover with. I was trying to do buttery B-roll slow motion with speed ramps and all this sort of stuff. And I was thinking, oh, okay, right, this is the direction I want to go in. And then I'd read all the comments, and people were just like, "Oh, I don't like this. It looks too polished. I'm not liking it." You know, and it's just like, oh, I've spent like 8 days on that 30 seconds.
I know. Absolutely. I know that feeling so well. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. So obviously then, you know, you've found your balance in what you're doing. What about for someone who's starting off in YouTube or starting off as a podcaster? What would your advice be apart from don't, you know, just in that sense? But you know, I think a lot of people, you know, I get quite frustrated. I think if we walk through Glasgow and you see people with their Facebook and their YouTube channels busking, thinking that you know one day they're going to become this overnight YouTube sensation, and we know that doesn't happen. So, what would be your tips for, you know, going from having nobody watching you to 60,000 plus people who, you know, who actually are engaged and want to kind of subscribe and kind of keep up with what you're doing?
But it does happen, as you said. You know, you will always fail unless you try.
Yeah.
Unless you give it a show, unless you give it a chance. So I'd say just, if it's something you want to do, just start. You're going to be shite. Everyone's shite to begin with. Just start. You know, if it's a podcast, just start chatting away on camera. You don't even need to have guests. Just chat yourself. Chat about anything. Pick a topic that you're interested in and start chatting. Or you got a mucker, just get your mate on and have a crack. Have some fun. Nothing wrong with that, is there? And you'll get better at your own craft. You'll get more comfortable on camera. You'll learn the pace, the tempo when you're doing podcasts of you know, the tempo of your speech, because you might think that you're talking normally, but when you listen to it back, you're either a million miles an hour or you sound really, really, really slow.
That's going to be their show because it's three Scottish guys on a podcast.
Everyone else is going to be like that.
Exactly.
You know, I would say just start and create the content. This is rich coming from me from what I've just said, but create the content you want to create, because I think if you try and create, if you try and be someone you're not, you're not going to be giving it your all. So if you create the content you want to create, you will naturally attract your community. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You'll
totally.
attract the
Yeah.
people that like you and your stuff, and that is how the channel will grow. You know, I've had my channel, Jesus, over 10 years now. You know, and it's really only the last. Thank you very much. It's really only the last 4 or 5 where it's actually grown. You know, it's I had 600-700 subs till end of 2016, and then it sort of grew from there. So just start and get going with it.
Cool.
I like it. This is, you'll be glad to know. Last question. We were going to. It's actually no. It was the second last question, but we've already covered the last question because we talked about the whole live your life kind of mantra and all that kind of stuff. Which again, it's just. I mean, so we'll make this the last question, and I actually find it funny because we were already set out the day. And my wife was practicing this, right? Which is, and when I said to my wife, "Oh, we're going to interview Bruce, like Teapotone," and this was the first thing she said, right? Nationals. When me and my wife are out now, right? And the minute we hit the Nationals, the both of us will go Nationals, and then off we go. Awesome. Did that come from somewhere, or is that just something you've always done? Or I mean, where did that come from? Because it's plaguing me and my wife right now to the point where you want to go cut that off.
It's from the old Bill. So I used to be a police officer down in London, and when you do your driving course, commentary is a big part of the driving course because it lets the instructor know your thought process and your vision, your observation. So you basically, as you're driving along, you're supposed to be going, you know, single carriageway, 1 lane each direction, broken central lines, 30 mile an hour limit. Speed is currently 29, 31, whatever it is. Gear for speed is 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever it is. Mirrors, you know, your observation out the back, your observation at the side. I can see numerous pedestrians on the left, pedestrian waiting across on the right. You're given a constant, non-stop verbal commentary as to what you're seeing and what you're doing all the time. And when you come up to the national speed limit signs in the old Bill, that's basically, unofficially, they're known as go like fuck GLF signs, because it basically means
I'm not telling my wife
expected. when you get to, well, this is a little bit old school. I think things have maybe changed in the last few years, but certainly when I did my course, it was, as soon as you got to the Nationals, the instructor wanted you to go as fast as the conditions would allow. So, you know, if that was 40 mile an hour and a 60, then you did 40. If it was 140, you did 140. You know, they just wanted you to observe the Nationals, do your 3-way mirror check and go. That's what they wanted. So in my car, when we were doing it, we just got into this habit where you'd just be like, Nationals, woof, and off you went. It's just a piss stick. And it sort of just stuck. It just sort of stuck. So whenever I'm on my bike, I always say it whenever I see them. It's like, woohoo, I can have some fun. Boof, go. Obviously, I'm not in the old Bill, and that's what made me resign. I got caught for that on cameras. But, you know.
All because one person complained.
Because I'm one knobhead. But well, they've done me a favour, haven't they? They've done me a favour at the end of the day.
Exactly. And I mean, not that I'm saying you didn't have the old Bill, but at least you're doing something that you're truly loving and passionate about.
Absolutely.
Well, you can take it from me, that is now a thing that just seems to be. I know when you were on the chip runs, when you were doing the big hunt, Lamb Chops just started doing it as well.
That's brilliant. Yeah. The amount of people that come up now and do it is great.
Aye, exactly. Take it from me, and I said this to my wife today, the minute she was practicing, we said, right, we're going to go out a wee run today, let's get the bikes out. Albeit we only go to Tesco, which there's no Nationals, we've covered that. But she was going to go on, oh, Nationals, and I'm going, oh, for God's sake.
Mate, I've had people in Croatia do it, people in Slovenia do it. I've been around Spain, and like locals are saying it. Canaries, there's like a Canarian chap that always does it. It's brilliant. Love it.
Here's a freebie from me. There's an addition to the merch range. Nationals.
I've got one. There's a Nationals t-shirt.
Is there? Oh, I'm buying that. I'm buying that. I haven't been on the merch page in a while.
That one-click order from your phone, that's happening.
Oh, that's happening now.
Yeah,
I've got the Live the Life t-shirt, and I've got the Round the World one with the map on it. I'm getting a Nationals t-shirt.
Brilliant.
So I'm getting my wife a Nationals one and all because she absolutely loves it.
I designed it. It was me that designed this one, and in my head it was going to be awesome, but I don't think it looks quite as good as I wanted it to. Because it's supposed to be a national speed limit that's been shot by a shotgun, so it's supposed to have like loads of bullet holes in it with nationals written underneath it. But a lot of people don't realise that's what it's supposed to look like it's been shot. But that's the idea.
Oh, I have seen that.
There you go.
That's just dawned on me. That's what that. Oh. Right, that's fine. Well, there you go. You make some money off of that because me and my wife are going to get one now. Just for, see, to be honest, it could have been a white t-shirt with just the word Nationals written on it, and I'd have bought it just so you go, listen, here, I bought you a present. Don't stop saying it.
I need about 1,000 people to buy these t-shirts, please. That'd be awesome. Cheers.
That's fine. We'll start promoting them. We'll start putting them up.
I'll have a word with John. I'll get John to start saying it when he's out on his bike now.
Aye, so you're only really your second kind of, you mean celebrity? I'm going to use the word celebrity, which I know is going to really annoy you, but you're only a celebrity guest. Our first celebrity guest was Ian's son, John, as an actor. And he's in Outlander. He was in The Hobbit and stuff like that. So, and he was going to his bike. So we had John in actually in the cave, and he was kind of chatting through, and our numbers kind of went woof with all these Outlander fans who just seem to have hung about. I don't even know if they ride bikes, but they've hung about.
Probably mainly middle-aged American women, but for some reason they've seemed
to be honest. And to be honest, right, I just think they like the Scottish accent, right, because they're watching Outlander, so that's probably why they're hanging about. So if that just gives you another whole rake of Outlander fans, we'll just send them on your channel.
Hi.
You could do a Teapot one's Outlander tour. There's a way. Go down all the places that they film Outlander in. Your bikes on.
With Nationals.
There is an idea.
Aye, absolutely. I think you'll get
a
few thousand people want to do that. And if give me a shout, and I'll get John to meet you somewhere.
There you go.
Right, you're on.
Right,
Ian, we're on. Let's do it. Let's do it.
He would love that. He would absolutely adore that.
Well, we wait till he's passed his big test first.
Well, he'll probably pass it by the time it's all organised.
Aye, that's true.
He's up in Scotland for the next year, so he starts filming his Outlander in March.
7?
Season 7, yeah.
Season 7.
So he's up from March in Scotland. So give me a shout. We'll definitely get us up.
Mate, that'd be mega. That'd be an awesome little series.
By the way, which is almost it's almost like a motorcycle group in its own, because it started off with Sam Hewn, who's the kind of lead character and or the lead actor, and then somebody else did theirs, then John's did theirs, and then I think there's another guy so there's all these guys going through the Outlander cast, just going, here, we should get any motorbikes. He's got right, so they're getting a whole wee clan.
And actually the chances are if it's doable, Sam would probably come out and have a chat with you and stuff like that as well, you know.
Mega. Right, let's have a wee chat and we'll see if we can make this happen. I think that could be awesome.
There you go.
John's back up in a couple of weeks' time, so give us a shout and I'll speak to him about it. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be more than up for that.
Aye, absolutely.
Cheers, boys. Nice one.
Bruce, thank you very much, mate, for coming on our
wee
show
lads. Thank you.
Sharing your experience, thoughts, stories, mate. It's been a laugh, and it's been an absolute privilege, mate. An absolute
and a bit serious
honour.
beard envy.
And absolutely, we never even got on to beer product. I thought that's a whole other show. We maybe need to start a different podcast on beard maintenance and beard products.
Boys, thank you so much for the invite. I love having a chat, and I don't get invited onto other people's podcasts, so I appreciate you.
Don't know how, mate.
I think it's. Do you find like when you sort of first start, you almost don't want to ask people on because you think, oh, why would they do it? But what I've found is you just have to ask, don't you? You just ask, and most people will.
That was our New Year's resolution this year, right? Because obviously last year we did a lot of stuff kind of during lockdown and stuff like that, and we were testing each other before. Well, not testing each other, that sounds wrong.
Well, we were learning our craft.
We were learning our craft and stuff, and we were obviously bringing in...
You're good at it, I'll tell you that.
Well, we were cheers, mate. That's
oh, wow. That's
a compliment. I'll take that all day long. We could just stop now.
Right, cheers.
It's very natural. You know, you're very natural at it. It's a conversation at the end of the day, and that's all this is, isn't it? And
that's exactly it, mate. And
very
that's
comfortable.
Exactly it. And I think... We've had some of our friends who are bikers come in and do that stuff, and then obviously we had John come in, which was just awesome. But again, it was kind of a bit nepotism because he is your son after all,
Sure,
and you
absolutely.
kind of tell him what to do. But we kind of got to the last show of like 2021, and we thought, right, we need to sit down and go, what do we want to do next year? Well, restrictions lifting and all that kind of stuff. And we'd met Charlie Boorman back in August at an adventure thing over at our
West
local
Coast
Harley.
Local Harley,
At our Harley dealership, and he was brand new, and he was like, "Oh, come on the show and just ping me and whatever." And I pinged him, and he never really got back to me. And I thought, we got to the end of the year, I thought, do you know what? I'm not letting this go. I'm going to ping him again, but I'm just going to go and ask the people that I want to speak to. I mean, or we want to speak to. And if nobody else likes it, well, tough. I'm getting to enjoy what I've done. So the first thing I thought was, I know who I really want to talk to because I've listened to your podcasts and that kind of what inspired us. And I went, I'm just going to ping Bruce and ask him, and did it, and you came straight back, and I was like, oh my God, here, see if you just ask, you just get it. This is brilliant.
To be fair, he was like away in a sweetie shop, to be fair.
Oh, I was like, I don't want to hear about your new bike. Guess who's coming on the show?
No, I appreciate it, man. I've loved it. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks very much,
mate. It's been just you keep doing what you're doing. I know I'll keep watching.
Me too.
And I will still keep going nationals every time I get to them. And if anybody asks me why do you do that, I'm going to go, oh, you just go and watch this guy. You need to go and watch this guy. Just go and watch it. Go and watch it. But mate, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I think. I'm going to let you do that, actually.
So everyone that's listening, folks, if you haven't done so already, get yourself over to YouTube and check out Teapot1. And in the man's own words, smash the subscribe button. You won't regret it. He's
ding dong that bell.
Yeah,
And
ding dong your bell. Yeah, he's also on Instagram and Facebook and at teapot1.com. And also check out Teapot1 Brew Time on YouTube and on your favourite podcasting platforms to listen to Bruce have a blather with other bikers and adventurers. Some of the stories they're just brilliant, and you know you will never ever not come away with at least a right good giggle. If nothing else, you know what I mean?
Aye, absolutely.
We'll put all the links
cheers,
up.
boys.
Yeah, we'll put all the links up to your channels and all the socials and everything, and we're getting it popping out there for you. Brilliant! It's been it's been amazing to chat away to you. Thank you very much for coming on. Absolutely brilliant,
boys. I've loved it. Thanks very much again for having me. Really appreciate it,
mate. Anytime you're feeling a little underappreciated or need some therapy,
yeah, therapy's good.
Just ping us and we'll have another show. It's fine. We'll get you on, and we'll.
Tell you, I'll get you on mine if you want. If you're up for coming on Brew Time, we'll get you on there.
Absolutely,
mate, absolutely
amazing.
Whatever.
Right, we'll have a wee ding dong in the messages after this, cool. And because I'm starting that up again from March onwards. So yeah, come on,
amazing, brilliant,
mate. We'll be there. Just you let us know. We'll be there.
Brilliant. Beautiful.
And
don't forget Project Outlander.
And
we'll get that sorted.
And we'll get Project Outlander sorted.
Brilliant.
Bruce, thank you again, buddy. Thank you so much. Folks, that is it for what has been I'm going to say strange. It's been a surreal episode 17, purely because it's not in our normal format that we're used to. But again, I just think the chat that we've just had with Bruce was just so phenomenal, and it was such a hoot and such a laugh that it warranted its own episode, I think.
Totally.
It would have felt tarnished had we talked rubbish about whatever bikes or news and stuff that's
although we did have a really nice picture of a really nice yellow and black one.
Yeah, we did.
We'll
talk about that next time. If nothing else, it lets us get we'll get another episode
really quickly
at the back of this.
Give you an update on the sponsor.
Exactly. An update. Still no fix. And parts are still in order. And God only knows what will have happened by that point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, I say it's our usual ramblings. It has been our usual ramblings, but no, really our usual ramblings.
No, but it's been a bit. It's been good It's been great ramblings with Bruce, who I think hopefully we'll be touching base with a few times, and it'll be cool. Yeah,
here's hoping.
Yeah,
here's hoping, because I never actually asked him. I should have asked him, who do we go to next? Who do we get on the show next? Do we get Andy or Richie, or is there someone else?
We'll send him a message.
Peter McKinnon.
Well, maybe
we should just reach out to Peter McKinnon.
Exactly.
Just
yeah.
Do you know what I mean, hey Peter, how's about coming on? And he'll be like, what?
I know.
Or he'll just blank us, one or two.
Yeah, one or two.
But yes, massive thank you to Bruce for coming on, chatting to us, giving us his kind of stories and insights
absolutely.
and his views on stuff. And again, for us, I mean, he did inspire us to kind of take up the whole podcast thing and all that stuff. So it has been it's one for me. It's one of the highlights of doing this show. Spending time with John has been the other highlight. So
I think what is lovely is that you know, when they say you should never meet your heroes. You know, there's all that kind of rubbish. But I've met quite a few because of John. I've met quite a few people.
Yeah,
and genuinely, most people are super nice. And when it comes to super nice, Bruce is up there as
absolutely
amazing.
And and if people found it a little bit fast, that's because three Scottish guys were talking about the thing that they love most, which is motorbikes. You know what I mean, with their better halves obviously excluded.
Yes, of course.
You know what I mean? So yeah, if it does get a little bit quick, I apologise. I will try my best to have slowed it down if it gets what's the word? Inaudible. Which is a hard enough word to say, except when you're Scottish. Yeah, it's almost impossible to say when you're Scottish.
Undecipherable.
Again, it's just been. I'll wake up tomorrow and go, did that actually happen? So,
and then you go, how do we top it?
And then I'm like, wow. Aye.
Sorry, we're just back to doing the news. Sorry. Oh, but have you mentioned we've got Tom Cruise coming in to talk about the new Maverick film?
That happens, I'm chucking it. I'm telling you right now, that happens, that I'm chucking it. But yes,
we just found him bouncing up and down on our couch. He thought he was in Oprah's.
He just phoned in and wanted to land his helicopter on the back door.
That's it.
Normal service. We'll go back to the news and all our usual kind of stuff later in the next episode. But yes, these are or were just the opinions of a group of average bikers, and I can say a group now because it's more than just you and I.
A group of average bikers, one of who happens to have an incredibly
successful YouTube channel.
Yeah,
exactly,
absolutely. So a huge thank you from all of us here. If you've enjoyed it, please like, share, and more importantly, subscribe. What was it? Smash that subscribe button, and was it wiggle your notifications or something like that?
Wiggle your notifications.
Ding that bell, wasn't
Ding
it?
that bell.
Ding that bell.
Wiggle your notifications. That should be the thing.
Wiggle your notifications.
We'll leave smashing subscribe buttons and thingy. We'll do wiggle your notifications.
And to be fair, that's more of a YouTube thing than a podcast thing.
That's true.
Smashing your bell. So, absolutely.
If you want to wiggle your notifications, then wiggle away.
And to be honest, if you finish listening to us and you want to smash your bell, crack on. So there we go. But hey, this has got sweary words in it anyway. So
this was explicit for the outset. I knew it was going to be, so yep, we're not going to make any bones about that.
So if you want to get in touch, please email us at averagebikersinacave@outlook.com, or get in touch via our Facebook page or Instagram. If you're looking to give us looking for possible big questions, if there's stuff you want us to chat about, or if you just want to give us a wee anecdote or something we can share with the rest of the listeners, absolutely. We'd love to do that with you. I don't know if there's anything else we could really say about this episode other than it was fucking awesome. Really,
it was. Or is it
because this is an explicit one?
Because it's an explicit one, we're just going to really cash in on it.
Yes, absolutely.
It reminds me of one of my favourite movies, which is The Kingsman: Secret Service.
The first one.
Yes.
First one.
When he presses the button and all the heads explodes, and then at the end he goes, "Fucking spectacular." That's the tagline for this show. Maybe know the tagline, because I don't know if it would let me put up. This week's episode 17. Fucking spectacular.
Yeah, but you could just put spectacular.
Yes, I might just do that.
Yeah,
I might do something else a little bit more.
You could do something.
I don't know.
Something that gets.
I don't know why I'm making a face, because no one can see the face.
And I'm not telling you what he's doing with his hands. So, but maybe he's smashing his bell. I don't know. Anyway,
I'm wiggling my notifications.
Thank you so much again, folks, for listening. Please wiggle your notifications in your own time. Absolutely. And we will see you in hopefully very soon the next episode. So until next time, please remember, only a biker understands when a dog sticks his head out of the car window.